Hi, this is Gianluca Misuraca. I'm the team leader of the International Outreach for Human-Centric Artificial Intelligence Initiative, in short, InTouchAI.eu, an initiative funded by the European Commission's Service for Foreign Policy Instruments and implemented in collaboration with DG Connect and the European External Action Service. So we are here today within the framework of the preparation of the high-level conference on artificial intelligence, from ambition to action, that is organized by the Slovenian presidencies of the European Union Council and the European Commission with the support of InTouchAI.eu. So in particular, we are here with Lslie Loble, so thanks for having accepted our invitation. And Professor Loble is a recognized leader of public purpose reform in Australia and also with a long experience in the US. And she's currently Director of Government and Not-for-Profit Entities and Industry Professor at the University of Technology in Sydney. And she's also a Fellow of the Paul Ramsay Foundation. So I will ask a few questions to Lslie. We are particularly happy to have here with us to address and introduce the panel on AI education and skills during the conference. So Lslie, you have a long experience in this field and in designing policies for introducing technology in education, as I said, in Australia in particular and worldwide. So based on your experience, what are the main opportunities that artificial intelligence can actually bring to the education system? And can you share with us some examples maybe from Australia?
Gianluca, thank you so much for the invitation to join you. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. And I commend you and your colleagues in the EU for providing global leadership, frankly, in this space of AI and how we can best shape it. So when it comes, one of the great benefits of AI is that it operates both at a highly personal level and at a systemic level at the same time. And that is compelling when it comes to education, where we have not always done particularly well in marrying individual student needs in wide-scale, large-scale education systems. So, for example, we know that one-to-one instruction works. There's a lot of evidence that delivers very good educational outcomes. But of course, when you're talking about scale under current conditions, that would be very difficult to achieve. Secondly, looking at it from a teacher's point of view, we know from, certainly in Australia, but recently McKinsey did a study of the US, less than half of the time teachers are working is spent in direct student engagement. And the rest of that time is consumed with administrative tasks, planning, and so forth. They're working 50, 55, 60 hours a week, and half of that is not going to teaching. So AI offers a really compelling possible solution to tackle both the student needs and the teaching and systemic needs. So look, there are a lot of places and ways that Australia is developing these technologies. I'll give you just a few. There's tutoring programs and gamified learning programs that keep students motivated and engaged and help them get those opportunities to learn and practice more skills and knowledge. This is particularly useful in areas like maths and science, where once you start to fall behind, it really is difficult to catch up. And in maths, of course, once you're behind, you lose motivation and you can't access those more complex areas of mathematics that are increasingly required. Another example, adaptive testing. It gives formative assessment feedback quickly to teachers so that they can see, both at the individual student level and at the classroom level, what are the needs, and importantly, where do they best target their teaching. The last example I'll give you, I could give you more, but one more I'll give you, I think is a really interesting small application that I've come across, which is about developing phonics for early years. and in this case, particularly for Aboriginal language backgrounds. So this AI application helps embed phonics, which of course is the foundation of language acquisition and literacy. And it helps children access that both in their first language as well as English. These are the sorts of innovative, creative things that education technology can bring. I'll say one last thing. It's exciting what we can do, but we always have to ask questions when it comes to an education application. Is it built on the best evidence? Is it delivering very good pedagogy, or is it in fact poor pedagogy? And is it being controlled and part of the curriculum and part of the teaching strategy being shaped by schools and teachers, or is it not? Those are the sorts of specific questions we have to ask in education.
Well, we all know that artificial intelligence has a huge potential to innovate education systems and actually augment the capacities of human beings. But also using AI can have ethical implications, many challenges, also, for instance, in terms of equity and accessibility to all. So what are the skills that, in your opinion, students and even workers should be equipped with to successfully address these challenges and turn them into opportunities for future career development, reskilling, upskilling? Do you have, again, some example from Australia to share with us?
Well, this is the greatest challenge we face, isn't it? To bend the curve of AI's development towards greater social, economic, environmental, and other benefits. And when it comes to education, that applies as well, but we also know that we already face a significant digital divide, which is certainly within education and across nations. So the best resource schools and the best resource families, the best off families, can access some incredible technological opportunities that enhance learning, and that's not always available across the board, and certainly to disadvantaged students and communities. So when it comes to thinking about skills, we certainly need people who will design fantastic AI applications, and particularly in education for lifting outcomes, achievement, and tackling areas of complexity and disadvantage. But I would say there's a much broader set of skills that all students need to have to deal with the rapid technological changes that we experience today and certainly going into the future. Those skills are critical thinking, computational thinking, metacognition, essentially, what do I know, what do I need to know? And lastly, ethical reasoning. These are bedrock skills that always have been important to the acquisition and application of knowledge. There's no change for the 21st century. These are not new. But what is new and what is a challenge for education systems is that they must be deeply and broadly embedded for all students, no longer reserved for only, let's say, the professions where it was once thought that was only where we need critical thinking. It's needed everywhere, whether you're an academic or a vocational student. So in Australia, these concepts are being woven into a new national curriculum that's being developed. At the state level, you see much greater attention to what is the best evidence in education and how do we invest in professional development for teachers and educational leaders. And then in universities, of course, where there's much more specific attention to AI. I know that I see much more interest, particularly from students, whether they're in the computing sciences or in law or in humanities or elsewhere, tremendously interested in shaping, designing, and using technology for good.
So my last question is actually about the future, because we have seen with the COVID-19 crisis that there are positive benefits of digital education in general and AI in particular, as it somehow helps maintaining the functioning of the educational systems worldwide. At the same time, there are a number of negative aspects that account for both education and well-being. And so moving forward, how do you imagine a future where AI is actually fully integrated into the educational systems? What are the skills that our children should learn to be really in control in the future? So what are also, in your opinion, the area of cooperation that Australia and the European Union should focus on in terms of research and innovation, strengthening the joint policy initiatives in the field of artificial intelligence?
There is no doubt that one of the lessons of COVID has been how essential technology is in our lives. It's impossible to imagine how we would have maintained, as well as we did, and quite substantially well in Australia, teaching and learning, certainly in schools, throughout this entire period. But I have to say, I think there's been an equally important, if not more important, lesson learned from COVID that often gets overlooked. And that is that there is a limit to how much technology we want to be using in our lives, and certainly in our education. Students, teachers, parents absolutely are desperate to get back into the classroom. They crave that in-person attention, not always mitigated by a screen, as you and I are here today. That personal engagement has really been the lesson of COVID, that technology must be kept in its proper place. It's a tool, not a replacement. And certainly in education, that is the case. So I can think of many areas that we would want to collaborate between Australia and the EU. I mentioned at the beginning that the EU is leading globally in thinking about the policies, regulation, incentives, structures, systems, and so forth that will bend that curve of AI towards wider public benefit. Certainly, I think Australia could benefit tremendously from collaborating with the EU around that. Secondly, I think we would really need to understand much more what both private and public sector organizations need to do to develop their own workforces, not just in their technology departments, but across all their workforces, to understand AI and to know when it should be used and how best it could be used. And lastly, I think generally it would be great to collaborate on those areas where AI and technology could help solve some of our toughest public challenges, whether that's climate change, lifting educational disadvantage, addressing disability, health, and well-being. These are areas where, as exciting and innovative as the private sector is, they will be less likely to devote resources in those areas, and it would be great to collaborate on that.
Well, thanks a lot, Lslie. This is really fascinating, and so I really look forward for cooperating again, coming again down under in Australia, and welcome you to Europe. And so I'm sure there will be many activities, and this is just the beginning of future strengthened cooperation in the area of AI between the EU and Australia. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you hopefully soon in the future of AI.
Well, we would love to see you too, Gianluca, and thank you again.